could miss what could have gave you a revelation. Ooh, I like that.
Soften up the mess, drop it in the water, let the daughter find an image with the rest. She'll be learning how to breathe, spinning through identity, revealing
Hey you
other.
guys, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Mslamekkiona. I create a lot of content that is surrounded around faith-based, and I am super excited for this video. I cannot wait to get into this episode, you guys. Today is the first day, day one of the Dear Wise Woman series. Y'all, I am super excited. I got my notes right here. I got my Bible right here, and we just want to hop straight into it. As you know, we have these 5 different principles that we're doing in the month of February. We are all about becoming a wise woman so that we can become that Proverbs 31 woman. I feel like we always glorify a Proverbs 31 woman, but there are steps and orders that are being, things that the Lord is placing in our lives in order to get to that place. We want to jump over to the actual woman, but we don't want to jump into the process. And I feel like this is where the Dear Wise Woman series is going to contribute to actually going through that process and not just jumping right into the Proverbs 31 woman, because we have to take those necessary steps and we have to allow the Lord to order our steps at every given moment. And that's why I wanted to create this series, and also just being obedient to the Lord's word and just understanding that the Lord is so omnipresent, and he does not, when I say he does not miss a step on any occasion. He is there at all given time. Alright you guys, so again, let's hop right into this episode. So let's start first and foremost with making sure that we have read Proverbs 1. So remember, we will be going through Proverbs 1 through 31 starting on February 1st, which is day 1. We are in day 1 already. I did film a video on my TikTok, so if you are from TikTok and you have joined in on the Dear Wise Woman, I want to say thank you in advance for checking out the video and being a part of this community as we go through Proverbs. So I want to take out my notes and I want to hop straight into it. So remember, we discussed in the preview video that what we will be doing is reading Proverbs 1 through 31, and we're going to read 1 chapter a day. So today, February 1st, we are reading 1 chapter, which is Proverbs 1. And y'all, it is so many great points that even just chapter 1 revealed, and it's just so good to be able to talk about it with you guys. This is like our mini Bible study / like a recap of Proverbs 1, just so we can kind of get I want to get some insight from you guys, or some revelations that the Lord has provided for you all versus just when I was reading by myself. So I would love for you to drop in the comments some of the things that you learned in Proverbs 1 and some of the things that you have on your key takeaways, because you may not have the same key takeaways that I have for Proverbs 1. So I want us to be a community in the comment section, so please make sure you're dropping in the comment section. And if by now you have not liked, comment, share, and subscribe, go ahead and subscribe right now, because you don't want to miss this series and you don't want to miss any more videos. So let's hop right into it. So remember, with our Dear Wise Woman, we are going to be writing 5 key points that we learned or observed throughout each chapter. And I wrote down my 5, and then I also wrote down the one thing that I'm going to apply to my life immediately, and then I prayed about it as well. So this is something that I did right before the episode. I'm not hopping in here with no key 5 points. I hopped and made sure that I did my pre-op before I actually did this video. So we're just going to be reviewing. Hopping right into Proverbs 1, we see that the thing that Proverbs is teaching us is learning wisdom and discipline. So that was my first key point was learning wisdom and discipline. When I read all of Proverbs in January, it definitely helped me become more wiser in my steps and also be more disciplined in my everyday life. I feel like Proverbs can be applied to every area of your life. So that's why it had to be my number one point. And then I also looked up the word proverb. What does proverb mean? And what I gathered was a short saying that conveys wisdom or a general truth. So again, proverb, the word proverb itself is a short saying that conveys wisdom or general truth. So just thinking about that, proverb in itself is already talking about wisdom. It's becoming more wise. So being a Proverbs 31 woman is becoming more wise, being wise. So that's what I want us to keep in the back of our minds. So that was my number one point. Now moving on to when we go down, and it gets good by by verse 7, where it states, Proverbs 1 verses 7, where it states, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline. So the point that I made on number 2 was more wisdom comes when you get to learn more about God. So that is just the beginning of knowledge when you fear the Lord. What does fearing the Lord means? Gaining knowledge, understanding his word, seeking his word. That is how you become more fearful of the Lord, because you are seeking knowledge. You're seeking his wisdom that he has given throughout the entire Bible, where he's giving parables, wisdom, encouragement, all types of things. Like, the Lord has so much wisdom in this book that, like, when we are trying to figure out how to do life, this is the blueprint right here. This is the blueprint, you guys. The Bible is the blueprint. Like, you cannot get any better than the Bible. Like, and this is somebody who didn't read the Bible for a long time and now going through it, and I'm like, wow, do you know how much stuff I could have avoided or, learned beforehand that would have gained me a lot of knowledge if I was just reading the Bible consistently? And now reading the Bible consistently is more so like, wow, now that makes so much more sense. You begin to see the wisdom in your situations, like, wow, this is how I could have been more wise. This is how I could have, allow God to order my steps. And like, going from doing it our own way to doing it God's way is a totally different thing. And we see in biblical principles that a lot of people in the Bible actually went one way and then they reaped the consequences. And then we also saw on the other side where they obeyed God and they reaped the benefits. So moving on to number 3, and I will talk about avoid the path of being violent. So in Proverbs chapter 1, where Solomon talks about avoiding the path of violence, something that I thought about was, when we are being influenced by others and being surrounded around others, and somebody tells you, hey, go do this. Like, for example, what we done heard that saying, if like your mom may have said this growing up, because I know my mom said this, if they went and jumped off the cliff, you'll go do that too. And it just made me think about that when Solomon talked about avoiding the path of violence, because sometimes we can get so caught up in what other people are doing and what other people we see around us are doing that we will get caught up in that idea that we should go do that too. Even when Solomon talks about this in Proverbs 1, he's literally saying, don't be fooled by fools. Don't be fooled by fools, because then you will become foolish. And it's just like, I don't want to be foolish. I want to be wise in my moves. So avoiding the path of being foolish or being around people who are very foolish. And there's no shade, but Hey, I'm just speaking from the Bible. I'm just speaking from the Bible. And then number 4, I write, when wisdom calls out, listen. This was so good. This was so this where in Proverbs 1, and this is like verses 20 through, I'm gonna say like 20 through like 26, where when they talk about wisdom, where Solomon talks about wisdom, where some point that I wrote down was, do not refuse good counsel and accept correction. There have been times in my life where I did not accept correction, and I was more so like, I'm right. It's not about being right. It's about accepting the wisdom that comes from other people. Like, even just think about when you were younger and your mom would tell you, or your dad or your legal guardian would tell you, like, hey, don't do this because, and they would give you an actual, like, telling you why, but we still do it. And then, we still do it, and then when they try to correct us, like, hey, don't do this, it's like we are trying to belittle their wisdom that they already have. Like, even like an older person who has a lot of wisdom, like, that is such good counsel. Like, I remember very vividly so many times, like, listening to my grandmother and listening to my grandfather and listening to those people who would counsel me as I got older. And I understand why now, because they were correcting my mistakes as it was happening in real time. So I'm just thinking about how important it is to listen from wise people, because the more life you do, the more wisdom you can gain, the more wisdom you will have, because you've done it and you know how to move from it. So seeking wisdom and counsel from good counsel who have been through things, who can tell you more about life. Like, not trying to tell your life story, but allowing them to counsel you with things. Like, sometimes, have you ever experienced, like, just listening to somebody and you were like, dang, how they know I was going through that? Even like being at church, that's good counsel, because you can go sit in the chairs and sit there, and you're like, have you been in my house? Like, have you ever felt that experience? Like, that is where, when wisdom calls out, listen. When that word is for you, listen. Because I'm telling you, it be something about it. It be like, wow, you really was on the, like, you was on the fly on my wall. Like, I'm really experiencing this in real time. So definitely, when wisdom calls out, listen. Please listen. I'm telling that for myself, not just to you, but myself as well. And then moving on to our last point, which was such a good word, and this is Proverbs 1:33, where it says, but whoever listens to me will live securely and be undistracted by the dread of danger. I thought this was so good, because just thinking about, you get a lot of protection when you get a lot of protection when you move in a way where you're conscious, and also moving in a way where, even though you're not looking over your shoulder, you're aware. You're aware of your surroundings. You are self-aware. I feel like this is so good when it talks about just listen to me, because this is also talking about being self-aware, self-awareness, and this really grasps the concept of self-awareness. And I just feel like Proverbs 1:33 was really talking about, in my head, and maybe you may think something else, but this is really in my head talking about definitely self-awareness. And that's so important, so important. So then I want to move and turn to, what application am I going to be applying to my life based on Proverbs 1. So the thing that I wrote down was, when wisdom calls out, listen. And some points that I wrote about when wisdom calls out listen was allowing the Holy Spirit to provide clear instructions. So when sometimes we can hear God and then we'll be like, wait, did I hear him right? So then you move really quickly without letting the Holy Spirit to fully come in, to fully give you full instructions on how to move next. Sometimes we'll get maybe one word and then we'll just take it and just begin to move. But sometimes the Lord is really wanting to give us more instruction. But if we don't listen to godly wisdom and we are not listening for God to speak, then it's more so we move so fast that we miss what God was really trying to tell us. Because I've experienced that multiple times of like hearing God with one part and being like, okay, I'm gonna just run with that, versus allowing the Holy Spirit to fully speak and to fully move. And like sometimes I'll get that time where he'll tell me to move, but then I'll move slightly, but he told me to move with force and I didn't move with force. So then I'm going back to the drawing board like, Lord, well, you told me to move, but I only moved this way and I was supposed to move boldly, and I didn't move boldly. I only moved semi-boldly, if that makes sense. And then also listening to counsel, being a good listener. And that was the last thing I was wrote on there, is being a good listener, learning to listen, learning to sit there and listen, and not being so combative or trying to speak when someone is still speaking, because you can miss something so good by over speaking or overstimulating the conversation, because you will miss the biggest part when you speak over that, and then you miss what could have gave you a revelation. You could miss what could have gave you a revelation. Ooh, I like that. You could have missed what gave you a revelation. I'm a end right there, because that is so good. And I just feel like as we continue on with the Dear Wise Woman series, I want us to be diligent in being intentional about this much, and being intentional about how do we become a Proverbs 31 woman. Because I feel like, as I said in the beginning, there are some steps that needs to be taken in order to become that Proverbs 31 woman. And as we go along in Proverbs, we will get an opportunity to know more. I pray that this episode, this video blessed you guys as much as it has blessed me. I thank you all for tuning in to this video. I thank you for tuning in to the series. If you are joining in, please don't forget to leave in the comments, join in, or you can leave like a locket in the comments. I pray again that you enjoyed this episode, this video. Sorry, I'm over here acting like I'm on my podcast on this video. I hope you guys enjoy. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 2 of the Dear Wise Woman series. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye, you guys.